The English requirements for visas is due to change in 2024. The proposed date is the 1st of July 2024, but it could happen sooner or later depending on the Australian government. So where does this put you as an international student who's looking to apply to study in Australia? In today's video, I'll be breaking down the impact of the new English language requirements on Australian student visas by explaining why is the Australian government making these changes to the English requirements in Australia? What are the English tests that are accepted in Australia and which ones do you need to avoid? And understanding what those English scores mean from those tests and how you can interpret them. If you stay with me to the end of this video, I will provide you with information of useful resources that can help to improve your English on a budget and save you time and money. Point number one. So why is the Australian government looking to make these changes? The government believes that these changes will not only help to improve education standards for international students in Australia, but also help to reduce exploitation of international students in the workforce. The government believes that by implementing these changes, it will help to protect international students in the future. Point number two, did you know that there are three main English tests accepted in Australia? These include International English Language Testing System, or IELTS for short, the Pearson Test of English, or PTE, and the Cambridge English, also known as the C1 Advanced English, or CAE. Of the three, the most popular ones are IELTS and PTE. It's important to note that all the English tests have their own scoring system, which we'll look at later in the video. But don't make the mistake of taking the wrong test, or it could cost you time and money. So examples of this could include the PT Academic Online Test, the IELTS Online General and Academic Test, and the IELTS Indicator Test. Now you may ask, Rob, what's the difference? Well, these are all online-based tests. The government wants to ensure that the tests that you take are supervised and that the results that you achieve are your own. They believe that online tests tempt people to cheat. Point number three, when international students choose to study in Australia, they either study English, a vocational course, a foundation course for university, a university degree, or a graduate program. Let's first take a look at the English program. The English program in Australia is generally called ELICOS. ELICOS stands for English Language Intensive Courses for Overseas Students. Now that's a mouthful. This is vocational level English. What this means is the test taker has a partial command of the language and copes with overall meaning in most situations, although they are likely to make many mistakes. They should be able to handle basic communication in their own field. So in order to be accepted into an English test in Australia, on my screen here, you can see that you will need to have at least a score of 5 for an IELTS test in 4 of the test components. For the Pearson's test, or PTE, you'll need at least a score of 36 for each of the 4 test components. And for the Cambridge C1 Advanced test, you'll need at least 154 points in each of the 4 test components. So what are the 4 test components? They include listening, reading, speaking, and writing. A quick point I want to make here is that there are 9 bands in the IELTS overall scoring level. So for example, if you score a 1, that means that you are a non-user of the English language. Whereas if you score 9, it means that you are considered an expert English speaker. So the higher your score in the bands, the better. In this case, the score of 5 is around the middle and means that you have vocational English or basic English. So as it stands in the recording as of today, the current scoring level is 4.5 to get into your basic English, but in the future, this score will be 5. If you are looking to undertake a bachelor's program at university, the university that you apply to may request that you undertake a foundation English program first. With the current changes coming in the future, you'll need to have at least an English score of 5.5 in IELTS or a score between 36 and 45 in the Pearson's test and a score at least 154 in the Cambridge test. But it's really important to note here that that is the minimum requirement. So what the university is looking at is for you to improve your English from 5.5 to a higher level in order to be able to undertake a bachelor's degree and more. To study a vocational education and training course in Australia, an individual would need to achieve competent English. So what this means is the test taker has an effective command of the language despite some inaccuracies, inappropriate usage, or misunderstandings. They can use and understand reasonably complex language, particularly in familiar situations. The current scoring level is 5.5 in IELTS, but the government is looking to change this to 6. And from a PTE perspective, you would need a score of at least 50 in each of the 4 test areas. And for the Cambridge test, you would need to score at least 169 points in each of the 4 components. It is worth noting that this level also helps you to apply for many other visas in the future. So if you are looking to apply for other visas in the future with your English test, your results must not be older than 3 years. Now, with institutions like university and things like that, they expect a result of not older than 2 years. In order for a student to study a degree, they will need to demonstrate a slightly higher level in competency in English. So what this means is that the test taker is reaching operational command of the language, though with occasional inaccuracies, sometimes inappropriate usage or misunderstandings in some situations. They generally handle complex language well and understand detailed reasoning. So as you can see on my screen here, you would need to achieve at least a 6.5 in IELTS for 4 of your test components. With the PTE test, you will need to score at least between 56 and 65 points in each of the 4 areas. And with the Cambridge, you will need to score at least 185 points in each of the 4 areas. If you are going to undertake postgraduate studies, you will need to demonstrate proficient English. So postgraduate studies are anything from graduate certificate up to a PhD level program. You will need to demonstrate a good level of English, and this means that the test taker has operational command of the language, though with occasional inaccuracies, inappropriate usage, and misunderstandings in some situations. They generally handle complex language well and understand detailed reasoning. And as you can see on my screen here, your scoring level will need to be at least 7 of each of the 4 components. With PTE, you'll need to be scoring at least 66 points for each of the 4 areas. And for the Cambridge C1 advanced test, you'll need to be scoring at least 200 points in each of the 4 components. It's really important to note here that every institution is a little bit different. So for some postgraduate courses, 6.5 might be enough. In others, you might need to have a 7.5 or an 8, depending on what the postgraduate program is all about. So before I move on to the next point, if you're finding value in today's video, please click on the like button or subscribe if you haven't already, and click on the notification bell so that way you can be kept up to date when new videos come out about student visa requirements, career development requirements, or new business requirements. So if you've stayed with me up until this point of the video, I appreciate you doing that. And in this part of the video, I wanted to share with you several ways of how you can improve your English, save time and money in the process. So when it comes to studying English, you have a few different options available to you. You can either look to study English in your home country, or you can look to come and study English in Australia, or you could even consider hiring a private tutor from Australia to teach you English. All these options can be quite expensive, But by learning English in an intensive way with somebody that you have access to you, may be able to help you to progress with your English learning quicker. If you are a motivated type of learner and you're happy to learn on your own, a cheaper option here is that you could look to buy some textbooks or look to buy audiobooks, as this could be the fraction of the cost compared to studying in Australia or finding a tutor or looking for somebody locally. So let's say, for example, you want to study in Australia. It's going to be a 10-week program at $300 per week Australian. This could cost you about 3,000 Australian dollars. And then you also need to include your accommodation, airfares, your food expenses, and all those kind of things. This could actually be roughly between 6 or 7,000 Australian dollars in total. So for an investment of $500 or less, you may be able to purchase your books or your audio books to help you to improve your English on your own. This could be a $6,000 or more savings for you in the long run. At the very least, it might reduce the number of weeks that you might be required to undertake English if you end up studying face to face. If that is the option that you choose to take, in the description below, I have provided you a few affiliate links that I recommend that you could look at in order to improve your English on your own. These books have helped other international students in the past. But if this is not for you and you would prefer to study in a classroom in Australia, or you want access to a tutor to help you with your English, all you need to do is book a free consultation with me through the bookings link that you can find in the description below, and let's have a further chat about it. To help you further, I will provide you with a number of useful links below in the description as well. So when it comes time to booking for your test, you have the links available to you. One thing I do want to point out here is students that have undertaken these tests, I've often received feedback that the PTE test is the one that they would prefer to do because they found that a little bit easier compared to the other tests. So a few questions that I'd like to ask you is, if you have undertaken an English test, which one have you done and how did you find it? And also, what suggestions could you share with everybody else in the comments below of what strategy you used to help you to improve your English? Investing in yourself can be quite scary. If you're worried about money and how expensive it could be to study in Australia, in the next video, I'm going to provide you with 6 tips on how you could afford to study in Australia. And remember, I offer a free consultation. So if you'd like to have a further chat and clarify any questions, please make a booking, as I am one booking link away.